Good morning, friends and clients. I've got a great interview in store for you today. She's president of Outsource Solutions and has worked as a consultant and a human resources manager, health and safety office for a number of years in the Golden Horseshoe. Her strength is her ability to relate and understand people's challenges. Her vision is that organizations will embrace their most important asset, their people, which is very important in the restaurant industry. Her belief is you include employees in the vision and mission of the organization, as well as mentoring, coaching, communicating, listening, and acknowledging their success with respect and caring. You are destined for success. She's written and facilitated a program and a book called The Magic Thought Can't Happen to Me. After listening to hundreds of managers and employees talk about their frustrations, it became apparent that she needed to write this book and develop a program for businesses to help employees make a huge impact on the success of the companies they work for. I'd please like to welcome Judy Dulovic. Did I say that right, Judy? Okay. Thank you, too. So um, let's start off with something that is probably everybody is aware of, and that was the plane that crashed into the Hudson River, and everyone made it out safe, and the press attributed that to the pilot's experience. You mentioned that there were three T's that were the real reason that a major disaster was prevented. What are those?
When I looked at that incident, the first thing that came into my mind was training, teamwork, and trust. There's no doubt that the pilot was experienced. But if we look at the crew, and this goes for the crew of any airline, they go through intensive training as well. Their job is to keep everyone calm during the evacuation and to ensure everyone's out safe. The passengers need to have the trust in the people that are looking after them, and that goes back to the training. They can trust because they knew that they were going the right way. The third is your teamwork. If you think about that particular instant, those rescue boats were there right away. The passengers themselves, when I watched the news, they're standing on the wings. It's cold. The water's frigid. They would have had to stay as a team, help one another. The land crew, the hospitals were alerted. Everybody worked together. That particular incident could have turned out a lot different if everybody didn't work together, including the passengers, and if the people that were with the plane didn't have the training and couldn't develop the trust. It would have been a total different story.
Well, it is kind of interesting that you mentioned that story because, and it's not just the people on the plane, but it was the people in the air traffic control. Like you mentioned, the boats. There was so many people all working to support him. And I've been part of strategic coach for years and years. And one of the things that Dan Sullivan talks about in that program is kind of like front of stage, back of stage, and that in this particular case, here's the pilot. He's the front of the stage, and all these other people are there supporting him. And it's very similar in the restaurant industry, really. We've got all these things that are happening in the back of the house, in the kitchen, the busing, all those things that really the the customer, the client, the guest is not really that aware of. Um, but they're kind of aware of is their food and the experience, and most of that is delivered by the wait staff, perhaps the manager, and the host as they come in. And of course, there's all these support things that are so important, like the person clearing in the washrooms, the person managing the inventory, the person making sure that the food comes out hot and on time and correct, and all these systems and things that are happening in the background, but really support the ability of the wait staff to deliver that wow experience. And I think there's a great parallel of what you just described.
Absolutely. You look at training, teamwork, trust. You think about the customer, but the internal customer service where you're working together as a team, that's what it's all about, and you captured it in a nutshell. That customer is, when I go into a restaurant and I'm the customer, it's not just the wait staff, it's not just the fabulous chef that's giving me my meal. It's everyone that is working together to give me that experience, as you mentioned. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't just come either. It takes the training. We can't make assumptions that staff understand how to build that customer relation. A lot of people don't realize they look at themselves being the waiter, they look at themselves as being the chef. Well, you know what? Our success is not built on each of us. Our success is built on everybody that plays a part in, as you said, the customer experience. So I think that's really important, that teamwork aspect. To choose your attitude, where people look at it and they don't say, well, that's my job or that's your job, or no, you know what, we do what we have to. We work together. We create that positive environment. And the end, I'm going to come back. As a customer, you see that. You see that synergy within a place. You see that person going above and beyond. And guess what? I want that same waiter when I come back. I want to have another good meal. I'm going to brag about how great, that dinner was. But it was not that one person that made that experience. It was everybody involved. So you're absolutely right.
So how do you use those three factors that you mentioned to get your staff to care about the goals of the restaurant and as me as an owner?
Well, I think first of all, training's important as an owner, as a manager, but most of all, leading by example. As you mentor and you coach your people, this means pitching in as part of the team and building trust with your employees. I'll give you a short example. I had a company where they had two brothers. Each one owned their own place. The one pitched in. They would make coffee. They would mop the floor. They would greet the customers, whatever. The other one was a very delicate, would delegate and would kind of tell everybody what to do and wouldn't get his hands dirty. Believe me, the amount of admiration and respect that the one fella had over the other was huge. So, pitching in and being one of the people, I think is really important. Let your staff know that this is a stepping stone to their future. Let's face it, in the restaurant industry, we'd often look at it as I'm paying for my university or it's my after work job. They don't look at it as, but I think the part that you have to look at is that you don't know where your life is going to go. You don't know that when you impress somebody, listen to it and what's happened here. So I think that's really important. I'm going to give you two examples that come to mind. The president of a company that I used to work for went into a restaurant, was dining, had an exceptional waiter. He was so impressed that he wound up hiring him. It didn't go through human resources. He made that impression just because of the way he treated him. Another example that I'd like to share with you is I was speaking at the annual HR conference in Toronto, and one of my assistants that I had probably about 10 years ago happened to be sitting on the conference. He said to me, Judy, it's funny how people influence your life, and you don't even realize until years later. Which brings me to saying thank you. I'm amazed at how much working with you and how you like to mentor was such a great influence on me and how I am as an HR person. Working with you taught me to be open and to listen to others and to work with a strong customer service mind when working through human resources issues. I'll tell you, after he left, I couldn't believe how much I had impacted him. I did what I've always done. I didn't do anything special. It's just the way I am. But you know what? I instilled values in him that he uses today. And to me, that's more rewarding than any money that you could give me. So, that part, making your employees, make your employees' day. Recognize your people. That when they're going above and beyond, say, hey, look, thank you. Boy, we really, I had a tough day today, and I really appreciate everybody pitching in. Before we're very quick to criticize, but you know what? We're really slow at rewarding and saying thanks. I really appreciate it. Mistakes happen. Remove the fear factor. Where employees are afraid to say something when something goes wrong, or they're afraid to tell you, hey, I can't come in. Be understanding to them. Build relationships with your employees by listening, understanding them, and be willing to pitch in. It's something that a lot of people might not realize, but money is on the 11th place of why people leave their employment. People want a sense of responsibility. They want to be able to develop. They want to be part of a team. It's not always about money. It's how you're treating that employee. Treat them like family. And I think from there, you'll get your employees on board because you know what? They'll want to work with you. They'll be there for you.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I think a lot of business owners, there's a couple things that they quite often struggle with. One is the fact that they're afraid to